gets here.
There we go, and we are already live. So this is the regular meeting of Rundfunk mitbestimmen at Agile Ventures. It's currently Joseph, Matt, and me. Mariam is about to join us. And I was just talking to Joseph and to Matt before, like how we, what we did like since last week. Joseph was digging into Ruby with some tutorials, so plain Ruby without Rails, which is something I would definitely suggest. And Matthew had some questions about the FAQ page, especially if there's anything bad in having many routes. And answer is no. You can have as many routes as you wish.
Is it? I guess like the reason I ask is like I'm learning more about the whole idea of like restfulness in Rails and like not having more routes than you absolutely need or something is what I kind of understand it as.
Restfulness is not clearly. Oh, hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm fine. Hi.
Hi. So Matt, could you repeat the question, please?
Like the whole idea of like being restful.
Yeah. So rest means representational state transfer, and it means like you have first of all you make use of the old HTTP verbs. That is get, post, patch, put, and delete. And you have a common URL scheme. So there's always one index route, then you can address one single resource with an ID. You have different routes in order to open a new and an edit template. So regarding the HTTP verbs, for example, those were introduced with HTTP, with the advent of HTTP in the 90s, but haven't been used a long time. And then suddenly people thought, yeah, we could actually make use of them. Before that, browsers were only implementing GET, obviously, in order to query a resource, like access a website, type a URL into the website, and posting form data. But there are actually other HTTP verbs, and you can make use of them.
Yeah.
They have a different meaning, so you can now change an existing resource or delete a resource.
Yeah. So this is why, like, so what we were just pairing on. Mike was there as well. We were just pairing on like making Miriam's pull request for the website one to be more restful because she was updating a parameter in a separate method, and then Sam was like, well, it's not so restful because we can update it within the update method, for example.
So it's a long discussion, right? So RESTful APIs, it's just a convention. The good thing about convention is developers know about it. And if you have another web service, which is also REST compliant, you can use your existing tool set for this web service anyway, right? That's why following a convention is a good thing. But nowadays, there are also other APIs with certain advantages. For example, I know of the JSON API specification, which is used in RFM, Rundfunk mitbestimmen, for exchange of data between frontend and backend. So it's REST and more than REST. So you have a dedicated set of parameters for certain purposes. For example, pagination, and something like links for pagination. You can query certain objects by an attribute. That's all possible, and it's described how to do that. And you can just make one plugin that implements this specification. There's Amber Data Wrapper, for example, and you can just use it for Rails, and you're good to go, right? So this is amazing. I mean, on both sides, you need some kind of intercommunication. You need the Amber Data on the front-end side, and on the backend, you have, in our case, action model serializers. They follow the specification, and that's why they can communicate with each other. So I would see a convention for the purpose of intercommunication between services. Does it make sense?
Yep. Matt.
in the end, you will eventually end up using very custom behavior. If you have a certain need in your business logic or in your business models, you will end up having dedicated parameters for a purpose that's only relevant in your application. But that's how the world works, right? So you cannot abstract everything. Like there are actually ways of trying that. Like people who are interested in the semantic web, they are trying to build APIs that are so abstract that you can, like in an ideal world, build one API wrapper for everything. But it didn't work out so far.
Yeah, I think maybe what I can ask when it relates to REST is the REST endpoint. Normally, people use the term endpoint, and it's really been confusing. Can you maybe make it clearer what it means exactly?
The REST endpoint in our case would be, for example, the backend. So we are implementing two types of application: the front and the backend. The backend is our REST endpoint, and the front end is a piece of software that runs in your browser. It's instructing the browser. So if you click on something, for example, to issue a request to the backend, which is our endpoint.
So it's like maybe a method, maybe an update method in the, for example, if I want to, yeah.
I'll give you an example. So I'm going to share my screen now. So it's good that you have questions. That's also something we can do in a regular event. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to the live system now. And if you do this, if you open your developer tools and go to your network tab, then you will see HTTP requests, right? You can filter for HTTP requests if you click on XHR. What is actually XHR? Email HTTP request. Interesting. All right. So this here is all rendered on the client side. The client is my browser, right? This is my client. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the browser does HTTP requests to the front end when I try to, for example, get some data here, right? So this will make an API request. So I just refresh the page, for example. How can I resize it? Maybe? No. There. Come on. Oh, come on. There you go. No. There you go. All right. So you can see a request here, right? So the HTTP method here was get. All right. And it's accessing this URL here. And the backend is our HTTP endpoint, sorry, our REST endpoint. And it's answering, it's responding in some specified way. So in this case, it's indicating that it was actually not modified, so the browser can reuse a cached result.
Oh, okay.
If I use Control-Shift, okay. So now I was using force refresh, which means don't use a cached result. and now it's 200, which means okay, right? This is how HTTP works. Protocol. Should get to the Wikipedia article, yes. And you can see that this was invented in 1991, and it has certain methods, which you can see here, right? They all have different meanings, and REST is making use of the of get, post, put, delete, options, patch, and I don't know what connect and head means. So I don't know what this is about, but yeah, but they are making use of that one. And REST, REST specification, yeah, representational state transfer. It's yeah, making use of HTTP, and it has certain characteristics. So you have this client-server architecture. It is stateless, and yeah, and there's a relationship between URL and HTTP methods. So if you have a resource, which could be users, broadcasts, or products, items, whatever, then you would expect that if you type in the name of the resource in the URL, that you will get, if for a get, you will get a resource in the result. You can use other HTTP methods to do something else. For example, if you post to that URL, then you will create a new resource, or a new record of that resource. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm thinking about what, if you can do that. So I'm going to my local machine. It will take a while, but soon we'll see something. But yeah, does it make sense so far?
Yes, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you understand what the HTTP, like the REST endpoint, is now?
Yeah. So it's like the like how do I put it now? It's not the resource, but it's what you get at when maybe you are accessing the resource or posting it.
Yeah. So in our case, the endpoint for our application, the REST endpoint, is localhost 3000. So this is we have two applications running. One backend application, which is listening on port 3000.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a local web server, which is just giving us like the front end on port 4200. And this one here is instructing to send a request to the summarized statistics. And it's having this data here, right? This data here. And this will be displayed on the page there. Yeah? So this one here is being displayed there. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. So, and it's going to, like the application which is online, it's using this endpoint. So api.rundfunk-mitbestimmen -mitbestimmen.de, and we can check it out. So this is what we get. Like, this is our backend. I can do the same thing with the browser itself. Like if I type something into the URL, that will issue an HTTP GET request, and I get that data back. All right. Does it make sense?
Yes.
I mean, we can go further and see how Rails relates to the REST interface, Rails has this nice method resources, which will automatically generate you the respective URLs for one resource. So if you have, in this case, a resource called photo, and you say resources photos in your routes, then you have these URLs and these HTTP verbs or methods as you wish, which are doing something, right? Okay, does it make sense? We have the same thing in our application.
So in a layman's language, the endpoint is just the home URL.
Not the home URL, no, it's the server. It's the server on, in our case, API.mitbestimmen.
The server. Okay, I think I understand.
This one here, Rundfunk-mitbestimmen.de, is using this API.rundfunk-mitbestimmen.de as an endpoint. Okay? So there's no top level resource, but there's one here. Oh, and I can also check out how this page here, what this one is doing. So there's this request, and if I want, I could also put it in my browser window. All right. So if you look closely, then you can see that the resource is broadcast in this case here. Or maybe that one. I think I can even open, say open a new tab, and I'll see this. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
What do you call the parameters after the question mark?
Those parameters are called the query parameters.
Okay.
Or query string.
Yeah, I was doing I guess most of the people here are doing the CS169 or have already done, and this was one of the things that I on week 3 that I need to figure out is how to persist this in the URL after like through the session. But anyways, yeah, so that's why I was trying to learn more about restfulness.
Yeah, so there are 3 ways how you can send parameters to the backend or to the server. There are query parameters like this. There's form data. I don't know if I can find a quick and easy example, but do they have an example? No. But anytime, whenever you enter some form and you say submit, then you have form data in the post request. Yeah, but this is option number 2, and the last option is to put information or parameters in the session, right? And the distinction here is whenever you want to, whenever it is okay. So first of all, always put optional parameters in a query param, right? So in a URL like this, all of that is required. Okay, so everything in front of the question mark is a required parameter.
Yep.
All right, so I'll give you an example. This one here. So this here means, because this one has a colon, then you can put a medium ID into this URL. In Rails, there's a command to show all the routes.
Yeah.
And even you can say something like this. Yeah. All right. So if you go to your Rails application and you just type in routes. Oh, okay. It just says no route matches routes, but it will give you all the available routes.
Yeah.
And you can see, for example, that we have statistics/broadcast and then ID. So this one here is expecting a number. like, or something in here, which is obligatory, which you have to put it in there. All right. It's part of the URL. But the query parameters are always optional. So those are nice if you, for example, do something, I don't know, if you want to put something in the search query, you see it here. So they have search and then question mark. So Q is the parameter, and my search is I am the search. You see it here. So this is the query parameter, and this is the search string. All right, and the different parameters are divided by ampersands. All right. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
And
like in the frequently asked questions, like we were working with a single, it would be a required param, and then
yeah, exactly. You can have both. You can have one resource for the FAQ index page, and then for the dedicated pages, then you would have all the options. But yeah, another example when you should not use query params is if you want to enter form data. Let's say you want to authenticate a person, and you don't want to put the password into the URL, right?
Yep.
Okay.
For obvious reasons. So that should definitely go into a form that you would send within your post request. You should not put that into the URL. Yeah. And a session is something which is unique for every user on your page. So yeah, I guess that makes sense, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And we have a lot of new attendees. So Faith, hi Faith. I think I forgot to say hello to you. And Miriam, hi Miriam.
Hi.
Hi. All right. Yeah. So any questions, any more questions about Rails, or what is HTTP, what is REST?
I have a question. Like I was just talking to Miriam that I didn't know if I was I was thinking of maybe even missing my first RFM meeting since I've been hanging out, because I realized that I did something that maybe has broken something in website 1 to do with Docker, and I was just trying in the background to see how. I know that you're ironing out some things, or maybe you've already ironed out some things with Docker in Rundfunk mitbestimmen, and I was just trying to have a look at how you configured your. I don't know if now is the time to talk about it, but how you set up your configuration for it, and because like this, the thing that I kind of Dockerized and it was working on my local machine, and then it was pushed up past the test, was merged into develop, and then I realized that anybody who tries to create a branch off of develop now with the Docker file cannot access the local server, because on the Docker in the Docker what is it the Docker file, no, not the Docker file, the Docker tutorial that I was following on the Docker website, it said to point the database.yaml to the host DB. And I noticed that in Rundfunk mitbestimmen, you don't do that. You point it to a host local host. Yeah.
Yeah, so our database is as localhost, and in the Docker file it wasn't?
Yeah, like in the I can maybe, I don't know, I can share my screen real quick and show you. When I was following the Docker tutorial on the here, no, I have way too many tabs open, sorry. Docker, quick start, compose and Rails. So this is really cool. It helps you get started real quick. You can just kind of copy and paste this and just go changing things to do with your your Rails application. And then here's the Docker compose.yaml. And same thing, you can kind of just go. So I don't know if this is what's different, depends on DB. I haven't checked the Docker compose for Rundfunk mitbestimmen. That's website 1.
It's working the same way.
Okay. So yeah, it's a little bit longer, but yeah, links, I guess, DB.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then build the project. So I ran this step, which apparently you only need to run once on your computer. And then it talks a little bit about permissions, that if you're on a Linux, you might need to give yourself permission for these files. But if you're on a Mac or Windows, that you should be good. Then it says to build it, which I did. But then it says about connecting to the database. So it's now bootable. By default, Rails expects the database to be running on localhost. So you need to point it to the DB container instead. So you also need to change the database and user to align with the default set by Postgres image, which are the Postgres with no password, and with the host DB. So that's how I did it, and was able to get it up and running and working, and everyone was happy and got it merged in. And then just to find out that now, if I am here, for example, and I say Rails service, no, Ruby RVM use 1, then I say bin Rails. I mean, maybe it wouldn't really block people from being able to.
So the magic part is the host parameter, host DB. So let me share my screen for a while, and I'll explain with an example. Share screen again. So whenever you type something into your URL, for example, google.com, or our address, which is .de, or agileventures.org, right? And you hit enter. The first thing that the browser is doing, or your laptop is doing, is to make a lookup. What is actually agileventures.org? Like, that's a name, and it's querying a so-called DNS server. DNS stands for Dynamic Name System, and its main purpose is to map names to IP addresses. As you may know, you can substitute your local host with also the IP address of your own computer, which is always for IP version 4, 127.0.0.1. All right. And for example, add the port number, and then we will hit the Rails server, right? Because you can just replace or substitute that part with localhost. It's just the same thing. Okay.
Yep.
And you can add more names to this system if you edit one file on Linux systems, which is the host files. It's located under /etc/hosts. You definitely need sudo permissions, administrative permissions. And this one here is just a table which maps IP addresses to names. So if I add another IP address, for example, localhost, and call it Matt, or hello Matt. How about that, right? And type in hello Matt. Oh no, it's actually thinking I want to go to Google and querying for hello Matt. Hello Matt. I'm on localhost again. Right? But yeah, now this is just replaced with my own machine. All right. And Docker is doing a similar thing. So instead of editing the host file, it's adding more names to your local network. So where did you get that file from? Docker Rails, maybe?
Yeah, compose and Rails is the name. Docker, yeah, docs.docker.com.
Yeah.
/compose/Rails, yeah.
So these services here are all accessible by name. which is DB, web, and so on. So if you search, like if you do a request to DB and a dedicated port, you will hit the Postgres running on this DB host. Does that make sense?
If I do what, sorry?
So the DB is actually the name of the host. Like what I called something
Localhost.
Hello Matt, and they call it just DB for database or whatever.
Yeah.
And suddenly there's a host with the name DB accessible from your computer. And this service here can also access it in the local network. Like this whole thing is, think of it as like the virtualization of a local network on your machine. Like we have one computer called web, we have another computer called DB, and yeah, that's it for this network. You can have more, and they are all accessible by name in this network. So if you say depends on DB, then yeah, they can reach each other. Let me see.
So I mean, it was working. It was working for the people to be able to reach it in Docker. But if they were deciding they didn't want to reach Docker, like they weren't able to go just to localhost 3000, you know.
They weren't able to get to localhost 3000.
No. Like I'm here locally, and like if I go to the server's running, if I go to localhost 3000. Then they get this error, connection refused. Yeah, I added this. Sensif added this DB to my local machine. But
are you showing us something on your machine right now?
I'm trying to. Is it not sharing?
Yeah, I was focusing on your display.
There. So then, yeah, could not translate host DB to address.
Yeah, probably there's something wrong, broken with that one. So you should be able to access a DB. If there should be some computer with the name DB that is accessible.
So like I went here to this that you were at, and then I added this.
No. Please don't edit host file. This was just for demonstration.
Okay. So I mean, like I'm not getting exactly what the. So I tried changing this from DB to localhost, for example, like it is here in the. Like it is here in the template, the database.template. It's listening to the host localhost, and I tried doing that, but that didn't work either. So I'm not. Yeah, I mean, ideally it would be able to work with people programming locally, but also work with people who want to run the Docker file, you know?
Yeah. So one thing would be to expose the port of the Postgres database to your computer. I'm going to focus on my screen again. And let's check out what's the port number of Postgres, like the default port.
Yeah, there's this 5432.
Currently 5432, yeah. And if you expose it, like this one here, like the front-end server is exposing these ports to your machine.
Yep.
You should be able to connect from your machine with the Postgres server on
That's like port forwarding.
This is like port forwarding, yes. So this is the, I don't know which is which, but one of them is the port on this machine, and the other one is the port of my host machine.
So okay, so I need to actually, right now it just has 3000 exposed, but then the people programming locally would need to use this 5432 part.
I think that the left side is host system and right side is the client system. So this is the client. So yeah, you can just forward 5432 to 5432, and you should be good to go. Another thing is, actually, that shouldn't be necessary because all of them should be in the same network, right? So if you have a backend, it should be able to access the database just like that. I mean, Docker is should just take care of it. So if you say it depends on this machine, like this database, then it will make sure that DB is available or accessible from within backend.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Is not that it's not available within Docker. Within Docker, it is available and it's working correctly. It's just that now it's not working locally.
Ah, yeah. Then you have to port forward. Then you just have to port forward the database port. But why would you want it? Like, why would you Dockerize the database and not just everything?
Well, no, I'm not trying to Dockerize just the database. I'm trying to Dockerize everything.
Ah, so you want to do step by step. So you start with the database, and if you did that, then you start with the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I guess here on the Docker Compose, because I just was following that guide, it just it just said to put just that in the Docker Compose. Like, this is the full Docker Compose .yaml here.
Yeah, so we have web and DB, and web is depending on DB, so web can reach DB. DB is not forwarding any ports, so you cannot reach DB from your host system, which that's not necessary. You just need web, and web indeed is a port forwarding 3000. All right. So that should work. So if you go to localhost 3000, that should do it.
Yeah, I thought so, but it's not. I can stop here. So I'm not within Docker. I'm just on the regular website one develop branch, and I'm running bin Rails S.
Why is host DB 127.0.1.1 and not 0.0.1?
Where?
So in the error message in your terminal window, it says PG connection bad. Could not translate hostname DB. Oh, interesting. Could not translate hostname DB to address. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. And further up, it's saying something about 1 to 7.
This is when I changed that. This is when I changed the host file that you said not to do.
Yeah. By the way, it's 127.0.0, not 0.1. Like the ones on the fourth.
Yeah.
You have 2 zeros, 1 1.
So if I try to come here to localhost 3000, then it's giving this could not translate hostname DB to address. So is that because I need to configure this YAML file to
Rails is running on your host machine, right? Yes, it is. You're saying bin/Rails as. That's not how it works. Like you just start Docker with Docker Compose up.
Yeah, but I'm not. Again, the problem is not Docker. Docker's working fine. I'm doing this with bin Rails because not everyone is going to use Docker. There are some people who are just going to use their local machine, and it should, whatever changes are in the Docker file or in the database YAML, which is this Docker Compose YAML. Oh no, the database YAML here is shared between the Docker and the.
Yeah. Okay, that's additional. That's how would you say? That's an additional feature, like sharing the same configuration for the Dockerized version and the local version. You would solve it by having 2 different config files. One is used by Docker, one is used locally.
Okay.
Or you can do some magic, like say. Type it here. You can use an environment variable just as on line 5 and 6. You could say you could use something like env and then Postgres host pipe localhost. So localhost will be the default if the environment variable is not set, and then you set this environment variable in your Docker Compose file.
Okay. Cool.
Question answered?
Yes, I think so.
Nice.
I like this.
How about the other people? Do you actually get something from our talking here, like Joseph, Faith, Mariam, Mike? Is it something?
Yeah.
You learned something?
Yeah, of course.
Just the magic at the end was yeah, I didn't get the magic at the end.
The magic at the end. Yeah, okay, Matt, maybe you can type it in right now. So this pipe symbol is the logical OR. So that means if the left side is nil or false, it will evaluate the right side, and that will be the return value. You have to make it a string here. Just not just call it localhost. Since this is Ruby, you have to make it a string, like a double quotation mark or single quotation mark. A single quotation mark is fine. Hey, okay, sorry.
I mean, shouldn't it be outside the URB syntax? No. Oh, okay.
This whole thing.
I don't know. I'm just asking.
So the ERB syntax is. Can you highlight the ERB syntax, please, Matt?
It's
easier for me to explain. That's the ERB syntax. It means within that, it's Ruby, all right. And the equal sign after the percentage sign means the return value of this line of Ruby will be put there. Like it will evaluate this piece of Ruby code and then put that the return value and place it there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so this so if I answer the question, this OR here would be Ruby, so it needs to go inside.
Yeah. And we have an evaluation on the left side. So this capital letters ENV means environment, and it's taking the a value from the environment variable. So something that you set within your shell. Postgres host, for example. I hope everybody knows what an environment variable is.
Yep.
Yes.
Faith, do you know what an environment variable is?
Yes.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, so if
I think there is something you shouldn't put on the right hand side localhost. It should be DB, because that's what you told Docker to change the name that's pointing. Shouldn't it be DB?
I was interested in that because I think if I understood what Robert was saying, he was saying that I can put this in this env Postgres host to be equal to DB in the env file, and then and then use localhost as the default.
Yeah,
or the
fallback. Exactly. So it depends.
When I run. But then I didn't get so when I run this, instead of saying depends on DB, it depends on the environment variable.
No.
You don't touch. I don't think you shouldn't touch because if you leave it the way it was DB, then if someone is using Docker, then it should be DB. You are not. The problem is that in the database.yaml, if you're not running Docker, then you had coded the host to be the DB for Docker. So now if you do this logic now, it will check if you want to use your local host, like the Docker local address for Docker, or your local host address. So the Postgres inside your machine or the Postgres inside the env Docker environment.
Exactly. So there are two ways. Like Joseph is doing the solution from the other side. He's suggesting that every user should set this environment variable. Then you would have to use DB as a fallback. So if you instruct your users, everybody should set Postgres host to localhost. That's one option. I would find it more cleaner and more easier to use if you set this environment variable from within your Docker Compose file. That's actually possible. You can set an environment variable when you start Docker, right? So I expect that if you start Docker, this environment variable will be set to DB, and people who are using it locally just having it set, and then it will use the fallback. So on your local machine, if you just run it locally, then it is not set. Actually, we are using this approach. Shall I share my screen again?
Yes, please.
Now I have a question as you share your screen. How come now you can write Ruby syntax on a .yml file?
That's actually a good question. I was doing it so many times. I don't know exactly why we are able to do it, but it's possible. So actually, the YAML specification doesn't.
Yeah, like you can't do that with JavaScript. You can say or.
Yeah. So there's some magic. Obviously, there's some magic going on that's replacing the embedded Ruby with the result of Ruby. So yeah, something within Rails will parse the YAML and will make and will render everything in the my YAML file actually. Where's the YAML file usually?
Config.
In config,
and then just should be database.yaml.
Yeah, so where do we have embedded Ruby? There, for example. So we have host, Postgres username, Postgres password. These two are, for example, set on our production server and then environment variable. This one here is actually set by the Docker compose file. And you can see it here that we are actually even using environment from like Ember port and so on and so on. And I think this is it. Just say environment and then Postgres host and then say DB. And in Sidekick, this environment variable will be set to DB. Same in backend. Right, so we have backend here. There is Postgres host, which is DB, and even something like Postgres username. Why not? Yeah, and everything else you need. For example, Redis URL. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then suddenly, this one here is, oh no, this is database Travis. So what's actually so this is database YAML. Oh, interesting. So we have host here. So that doesn't make an awful lot of sense. Database template. We have it here in the template. So apparently the Docker file for the backend is using the template file, I guess. Yeah, there we go. So it's in the Docker files copying database template YAML, making it the database YAML file. All right. Okay, but does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we get back to the actual project itself. Like after, I mean, I'm taking care of the Dockerization. I kind of lost track on the Dockerization. Yeah, it's probably what I'm going to do myself regarding the Dockerization. But how about you? Like, I think Joseph, you were working with Ruby, learning Ruby, and looking forward to work on an issue in the backend. Faith just joined us, and I think you all wanted to help Matt with the FAQ feature, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
And Matt, you were working on the FAQ feature. I think Mike, oh no, he wanted to work with Mike Jong, also on the backend, right?
Yes.
Is that true? So Mike, by the way, he sent me a private message on Slack, and he was telling me that he cannot join us today, but he's working on the implementation of that feature. So as you may know, last time, like on Thursday, we were pairing together, and we were preparing, like we were fixing 2 test cases out of 4, right? And you could, for example, try to fix the remaining 2 test cases.
Yeah.
How is your Ruby knowledge, Mike Ono? So far, do you need help with that?
I'm taking class 1 CS 169. So yeah, it's coming up.
So I don't know the curriculum of that computer science course, but yeah.
We're doing every weekend. We've gone through the Codecademy Learn Ruby course, and we've kind of finished week 1 of the homework, which deals with more than Ruby. It's like an agile development course, but it uses Ruby as a basis. And so we're just going through and writing methods in Ruby and playing with the different methods available.
Yeah. Do they introduce RSpec in test-driven development?
Yes. They introduce RSpec, and they introduce Cucumber, and using Capybara as well. But we haven't got to a lot of that yet. We're kind of right now in the finishing up the first week and going into the second week. In the second week, we start using some tests, doing some test-driven stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then the third week we start using. So the second week we don't even use Rails. We use Sinatra.
Mm-hmm.
And then then starting from the third week we start using Rails, and fourth week is all about B2D using Cucumber.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the fifth week.
Using Sinatra as a framework. I'm going to share my screen again. I can show you the website. It's actually a good way to learn routing, because Sinatra is like Rails, but just with the routing. Okay, so it's a very tiny framework. You just have to require one library, and then you say, okay, I say if I want to start a web server and it's just listening on one route, Frank says, and then you return something to the browser, and that's it. So Sinatra is a good way to learn more about routing, RESTful interfaces, and so on and so on. What are parameters? What are ways to like deliver information from my browser to the server? All right. Who was asking about REST? I think it was Joseph. Was it?
No, I was.
No.
I think I was the first one that was.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, because you were talking about the issue of having a different route for every frequently asked question, and I was just wondering if that wouldn't go against some REST principles.
Mm. Yeah, because of the many routes. No problem with that. There are other applications that have like so many different routes. I think if you have your routes, then all it does is if it gets a route like this, it will just go through the entire list and check if any of those expressions, or if this one here matches, right? So it's taking the first one that matches. You can have routes that both match, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it will take the first one. So this order here actually matters, right? So if you put if you put topics before media or whatever, and you would have 2 matching routes, then it will take the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. Basically, what I was suggesting is to Mike, since you wanted to learn some more with Ruby, and also Joseph, you're very welcome to get your hands dirty with that, is to I have to look it up. So I want to show you the branch of Mike Jung that we were working on last Thursday, and show you the remaining failing test cases. I think it's this one here. So the branch name is monthly email list. Okay. So were you able to, for example, check out the code by Mike Jung and run the test cases as well? Have you been able to do that, Mike or Joseph?
For me, not yet.
Not the one that Mark Jung pushed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just did set up the project on my local.
Yeah, if you want to help Mike Jung, which I would suggest, and it's up to you, of course, then I would suggest to check out his branch. Make sure that, because this one here is on his remote, that you go on his GitHub page, like it's MZ99, and click on repositories, and then Rundfunk mitbestimmen, and just add this one here as a remote. Do you know how to do that?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So I don't have to show it. Joseph, you know how to do it as well?
I've never done it, but I think I can manage.
Yeah, so it's very easy. Just say you go into the folder, and you can list your remotes with a git remote -v, and then you give it a name. For example, MZ99. Up to you. You can also call it Mike Jung's repository, and you add this URL from GitHub.
Okay.
By the way.
And then when you push.
Yeah. So git remote add, then the name and the URL.
And then when you push, you are pushing to Mike's branch repository.
Exactly. So you now can say git pull instead of origin. Say Mike Jung's repository. And likewise, you can say push Mike Jung's repository, and then the branch name, which would be 390 something. I don't know. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Use the branch name.
Okay.
Right. So I'll remove my remote because it's actually a duplicate. See? So I have MZ99 already. I'm now removing Mike Jung's repository again. Oops. Remove. Huh? Sorry.
Dash R, I think.
Dash R?
Yeah. Or dash.
And I got confused. I was typing in remove instead of remote because I just removed the remote. Maybe, I don't know. -v is minus verbose.
Yeah.
Like that. All right. So right here. Apparently. Oh. Apparently I didn't pull yet. There we go. So if I run this test here, did you see that how I pulled from another remote?
Yep.
Yeah. Because migrations are pending. Can do that right now. There you go. And now there should be 2 failing test cases, right? So if you run those test cases here, you can see the remaining, 2 failing test cases, and you can try to fix those as we did last Thursday. Okay. So that would be my suggestion for you, Micah Ono, and also for Joseph. I mean, as far as I know, your experience with JavaScript, so maybe the concept is it's nothing really new for you, but it's in any case, it's a nice way to get in touch with the syntax of Ruby, like to understand, okay, what's actually going on. Like we have this do and here.
Yeah.
What does it all mean? Like understanding that this is actually a method call, this is a parameter, and this block is added as a block to this method here. Right? And same thing here. You have before, and then you have a block. This time written with curly braces, right? This would be my suggestion to you, Matt. I think you know what you can do.
Yeah.
Right?
So
definitely.
People pick up tasks from GitHub, or do you have like Pivotal Tracker? Or
we're not using Pivotal Tracker, but you can definitely, if you don't like working on this issue with Mike Jung, you can just contact other people on Slack, of course, and me, and ask them if I have some issue for you. And you can also go to the repository and search for issues there. Beginner-friendly issues are marked with a good first issue, I think.
Oh, okay.
But
I can work on the tests first. Let me.
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course. Absolutely. It might be you probably have to ask Mike for permissions so you can push commits. Right? If you commit, you will not be able to push it back to the repository. You will have to ask Mike for permissions.
Okay.
By the way, did I give anybody? Did I forgot to give write permissions to any of you? So who's got write permissions so far? Hands up.
I do.
Joseph, do you have write permissions on? Actually, I could actually look it up. Let's see. How about going to the settings and see collaborators? Oh, who's not on this list? I think, Joseph, you're not on this list yet.
Yeah.
What's your GitHub account name?
It's funny. Cachulio.
Type it into this window here.
But that's not my real name.
All right.
It was actually from a series I was watching.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And I've not seen Aono Mike.
Yeah, what's your name? Aono Mike?
Yeah.
Aono. All right. Anyhow. Anybody else?
So I'm supposed to ask, is there another mic for permission to push code to his branch? Or is it Mike?
So this one here is the original repository, like under my account name. And Mike has its, it's a fork. Okay.
And this mic here in the another mic. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's two mic. Okay.
So this one here is a fork, and it has this branch 390, which is missing on our original repository. So this is how you would do it on GitHub if you don't have permissions. You just create the branch on your own fork, and then make a pull request from your repository back into the origin repository.
Okay.
Just to let you know. All right. So
I need to fork this repository so I can have it.
If you want to push commits on, you can, of course, you can fork your own repository, but I would suggest that you ask Mike Jung for access. Actually, I'm going to.
Yeah, you. The other thing that I was talking to Miriam about this today. I don't know which is if there's any one that's considered better or not. But like I was pulling from her remote and pushing to mine, and then suggesting that maybe she pull from mine and push to her own, instead of getting, because we were kind of finishing up and waiting to come to this meeting, and without her going and giving me permission, just doing it that way. But I guess then you would still need to get in contact and let them know that you're doing that.
Okay, I just called Mike and asked him to give permissions to you. All right?
Okay.
Okay. So how about, I think I forgot Mariam, right?
I already have version.
Mariam, is there anything that you would like to work on? Do you want to help Matt? Do you want to work in the backend?
I think I would want to work something with the Ember.js.
Okay, so you would like to work on Ember.js.
Yeah.
I guess that Matt is working on Ember.js. You can help Matt if you want to. And
yeah, on the FAQ.
Yeah, so I was working with Mike Zhang on Thursday on the backend, and I was checking out this annoying problem with the scrolling behavior on Saturday, and I was trying to find a clean solution to it. Like, I mean, the only goal is that we want to give somebody a deep link and show him a particular piece of content. That's it. The animations is just on top of that, right? So I wasn't able to get the animations right in a clean manner. And since it's not that important, I was about to say, okay, let's ditch the animations. Let's don't do animations anymore. Just have one index page with all the FAQs and dedicated routes where you see only one FAQ. Okay? No pop-up, no modal or something. Just that the content, that's it. Okay. Does it make sense to you, Mariam?
Yeah, like having multiple pages. Like you'll have multiple pages.
Exactly. Having multiple pages, having basically two routes, one index route and one route with an ID.
Oh, okay.
Or a key, as you wish, whatever.
Yeah. And the IDs for the question, that is, yeah, the route for the page which contains the question.
Yeah, so I don't know why no, we are back. Exactly. So it's exactly how you explained it. So we are now on the front end. There's also a configuration of the routes here, which is located in config. Oh no, it's in routes/router.js. So here's the configuration of the routes in Ember.js. Right? We have static pages on, for example, imprint and login and data privacy and so on and so on. I would suggest that you have. Actually, I think we got that already. FAQ page. Got FAQ page. There you go. So you have FAQ, and you could add one more with calling FAQ single, for example, and path variable, and then colon key. That's it, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone knows an issue that he or she can work on?
Yep.
Any questions so far? Is there anything that you would like to discuss with me?
Yeah. I still haven't been able to get this set up, but I'm gonna parent it tonight anyway, so I'm not sure.
The Docker setup?
Yeah. But it's not to do with it's nothing to do with RFM, so and I'm gonna work on it tonight. I'm
actually pretty sure that you can solve it the same way as I did. You can check out the Docker update branch of RFM,
Yeah.
and see how we are using a different configuration for the Docker. We in the Docker file, we're copying the template config file into the, and we are overriding the actual the real database YAML file.
Yeah, so I went here, like I saw that you said that, and I went to the Docker file for the back end, or is it not the Docker file for the back end?
So in our branch, you mean?
Yeah.
We have many Docker files. There's one Docker compose
Front
file.
end, back end, but we don't have a front end, so I think it would just be the back end. And then I didn't see where you're copying database.yaml, but I did add that to copy the. I added a database.template.yaml and copied that into the database.yaml, and then but it's not even getting to that Docker file because it's getting stopped in the Docker compose file, saying that it relies on the DB. So yeah, I don't know. It says bind address needs port DB.
Yeah, maybe we can have a look at that. But you have, in our case, we have one Docker compose file. I mean, debugging Docker files is really annoying because it's taking so long for each run, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And many times you have to refresh the whole thing.
It seems like it goes faster with this Docker compose up and with the tag build, but I'm not sure when we're reading about when you can use that and when you need to do a complete rebuild. So
I'm not even sure. I don't know when to use what. So I have if I have a gut feeling that there's some caching problem, I'm forcing it to rebuild.
Yeah. Also, I think maybe I'm not even looking. I think I'm on the wrong branch.
Yeah.
With the master branch, no?
I'm currently on Docker update. Is
it called the master for RFM, the branch?
I'm on RFM. I'm on Docker update. Docker_update.
Okay.
Right. And if you go into the Docker compose file, you see that we have one Docker compose file, which is located here. And each of those services have its own Docker file. So whenever it says build context, this is the location of the Docker file. All right?
Yep.
So there's one Docker file in front end. This one here.
Yeah.
Front end, there's a Docker file in the parent folder.
Yeah.
And there's a Docker file in the backend folder here. I don't know where else we have Docker files, but we have plenty. And in the backend Docker file, which this is interesting for you, or we are using this line.
Run copy. Is there any? I wouldn't imagine there'd be any difference because there's you can just say copy in the Docker file as well instead of run copy.
I don't know. Sometimes I'm questioning the respective commands, but yeah. I haven't tried it. I was actually just happy that it just works and we can refactor it later. I guess that we have a lot of commands that are redundant, but I was just, first of all, I was making it work and then we can refactor it.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, any questions?
How do you rename when you are adding a remote? How do you change the name of the remote?
You need to remove and add again.
You mean a remote? What do you mean by like a Git remote?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to remove the old one and add it. Or actually,
I haven't even added.
So then you would just add like git remote add, and then the name of it, like upstream or the person's name or whatever.
Let's rename it. I mean, how about remote rename origin 2? Works.
Oh, look at that.
There you go.
Okay, so git add and then
Syntax is git remote. Like this is the sub command, and then you have add, you have remove, you have.
I'm trying to add, but I'm getting an error.
And you can also say git remote minus minus.
Can you share your screen, Joseph?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to give it a name. So you did almost everything right. So between add and the URL, you have to give it a name.
Oh, okay.
And you can give it a name as you like. For example, I chose, I use the GitHub account names as the names for the remote. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, now I have to.
Yeah.
So how do I git branch?
Yeah, and git branch minus a. Git branch minus a will give you all branches, including remote branches.
Oh.
So it says for the remote origin, it has all these branches like Amber Fastboot, 2214, 321, 320, and so on and so on.
But
that would work on as well, Robert. I remember watching a video when I first came here about you guys talking about using Fastboot.
Say it again, please.
I said that would be a cool issue to work on as well, getting Fastboot.
Yes, right.
Or has he already got that?
No, I didn't figure out, but it's there's a long-running pull request which was doing this Fastboot conversion, but we still haven't. There are some plugins in Ember which are not yet Fastboot compliant, so we have to fix the plugins first.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and Joseph, could you do git fetch and then the name of the new repository, that is MZ99?
And get a charger.
Git fetch. And then MZ99. MZ, yeah, the name of the repository, the remote.
Oh, MZ99.
So if you say git branch minus a now, git branch minus a. Yeah. Then you see you have new remote branches from MZ99.
Okay.
All right.
And the one with the test is
390.
390. Okay.
You can now just say git checkout 390, and it will automatically know which origin it should take it from. So if you say 390, there you go. This is it.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Okay. More questions? I would keep it this regular meeting a little bit shorter than usual.
I think Miriam's trying to ask something, but we can't hear you, Miriam.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the Docker file. Why do you have multiple ones? Like, what's the reason behind having multiple Docker files?
That's a good question. So you have to distinguish between two tools. One is Docker. One is Docker Compose.
Yeah.
Docker is the responsibility of Docker is to virtualize one machine.
Okay.
The responsibility of Docker Compose is to virtualize many machines, like basically managing many machines that are managed with Docker. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so here we are using Docker Compose.
Both. So we're using Docker Compose. We have many services, And we have per service, we have one Docker file.
Okay, and you're using Docker Compose to manage all of those?
Correct.
Okay, so like each Docker file, for example, for the front end and back end server.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. There's actually more than that. So for frontend and backend, we have a Docker file. And we're using Docker files from the web that were provided by other people for Postgres, Redis. Let me see. Okay, let's go back to the Docker Compose. What am I on? Oh, Docker update. Nice. So I said we have one Docker Compose file.
Yeah.
And apparently we have like a Docker file for the backend and the front end. Image. So this one here is using the same Docker file as the backend. So Sidekick. Apparently it's using the same Docker file as the backend, which would make sense somehow. And here we have the DB, the Postgres database, and the Redis database, and they're using an image from the web.
Okay.
For example, you can also check out the image for Postgres, Docker Hub. There you go. So you have different versions of Postgres. They all have a Docker file. You can click on it. And there you go. So this is the Docker file for a Postgres database.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We are using 9.6, so ours is, I guess, this one. All right? Cool.
One last question. I'm looking at the README and I don't see the command that you are running the test with. It's not in the README.
You mean foreman? This command here. Sorry, I'm going to share my screen again. Whoa. Do you mean this one here, foreman? Then start.
No, you are doing like rspec bin something. No. Oh, okay. You want to start Docker?
This one?
No. The way you are running the test and you saw.
Yeah, this one here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not.
So this command is a so-called bin stub. That's actually a good question. So you have a folder which is in the backend. This is usually the abbreviation for binary. Anything program that is executable. And you have many so-called bin stubs. That's a Rails feature. Okay, so this is the bin stub of RBNV. Bin stubs are wrapper scripts around executables, sometimes referred to as binaries, although they don't have to be compiled. Whose purpose is to prepare the environment, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I guess this is the important part. So in this case here, for example, if you say bin Rails, right? Bin Rails. It's, haha. Okay. No way. Okay, I have no idea why this doesn't work right now, but bin Rails. Do I have Rails?
That's Is it related to the login using RVM?
Yeah, I'm using Change Ruby. Did I?
Because it happens to me as well. Each time I will have to log in before I can use them. The RVM.
I think it seems I have only Ruby 2.5.1. Right now I have no idea, not at all, why this doesn't work. So if I open another shell again, bundle. What? No way. So I don't know what happened. But yeah, back to topic. So bin/ruby is using this file. It's preparing the environment. That means it's, for example, I guess the most important difference here is it's using the GEMP file. It's using the version from the GEMP file. So usually, maybe Matt, you can help me out now. Can you share your screen?
Yes.
So could you show the difference between bin Rails and Rails? Like
Here, if I run bin Rails S like this, so RVM use 2.5.0.
Yeah, bin/Rails is using the file in the folder bin, right? While
Okay.
Rails on his machine is using an executable on his, which he installed system-wide. Like he can install Rails to like Rails, I don't know, 4, but the GEMP file is specifying Rails 5. So using the globally installed Rails will start a Rails server version 4, while bin/Rails will always use Rails specified in the GEMP file.
So if I switch, I've never tried this before, but if I switch to Ruby 2.4.2, for example, and say Rails S, then yeah, it'll complain.
Yeah, for example. And bin/Rails will never complain.
Well, I think this might, yeah, it'll just tell you that you need to switch.
Yeah, okay.
Much
Fair.
more useful. But then also is, yeah, it's, then you also have the bundle exec as well, which is really nice to use.
Yeah.
Make sure you're
It's
right.
doing the same thing. So
yeah. Well, like for example, on local support, we don't have any bin file. So then you can't run bin Rails, but then it's good to instead of running Rails just running Rails S, it's good to run bundle exec Rails S to make sure it's actually using the right.
yeah, I like those bin stubs because bin/ is shorter than bundle exec.
Yeah.
And it's also doing some kind of caching, so it's just faster. So running it several times will be faster if you use bin/rspec, for example. All right.
Cool.
So I just developed the habit of using bin/ and then the command if we have a bin stub after all. So there are some, I think Rails is there, rspec is there, rake. I don't know if we have one for Cucumber, but yeah, Rails and rspec are the two that I'm using most frequently. All right. Okay. Well, did you learn something today? Is everyone happy? Does everybody know what to do next, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy with RFM. I'm happy. Yes.
But
I'm not happy with this. Yeah, this. But yeah. I don't know what I've done actually. But anyways, I will debug it and then we'll be happy.
Yeah, I'm sure you will get there soon.
I'm still having an error trying to bundle saying an error occurred, and it's telling me to install PG.
Oh. Yeah, if a bundle is a package manager for Ruby, so you probably know npm, yarn, same thing.
Yep.
Ruby.
Do you, Robert? Do you know that maybe by changing that host file and then deleting it and going back, because now it's just not working at all. Like I can't run the server at all, like on this project. I don't know if it's
You
the same.
deleted your host file?
No, like I deleted that line about adding the DB host name to the thing, and maybe I need to reboot my computer. Not sure.
I don't know. I don't know when the host file. I think it's used every time. I guess so.
Yeah, I suppose I could try with a different project and see.
It should, because I was changing it and it was immediately, the change was immediately visible.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm going to meet up tonight, English Hack Night, that we're going to do some contributions, some open source stuff. So
Nice.
That should make me happy.
At least. Yeah, I will. I have a lot of appointments this week and on the weekend. I don't know if I will be able to contribute in the next few days, but I hope that you can pair with each other, ask questions. I will be definitely available on Slack, so you can also just text me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, maybe
I
can run some pairings, and maybe Mike and Joseph, you can also run some pairings, and maybe ask Mike Chan if he wants to join. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we can always, like, on the weekends. This weekend's a bit strange. I need to talk to you guys about that. But yeah, we can always pair on other things besides the homework. Like I think you can, like, it's really good to take what we're learning in the homework and actually apply it to the real world. And RFM is a great project to do that on.
Okay. Everybody.
I like that you call it RFM, because I don't get it easy to pronounce the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I chose the name. I chose the name before I joined Agile Ventures. That's why. So I was never expecting people from outside Germany to work on this project. And
Okay.
It's a bad name. I do regret choosing that name, but now it kind of stuck.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got identity, and I keep listening to German music. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Thank you.
I would say I will hit the stop broadcast button now. That will stop the recording.
Cool.
And I say I'm very happy, and I'm happy for everybody who joined.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.